Well, here I am this morning with a message from Jesus, and this time it's a very practical message about how to prepare for Christmas the way Jesus would like. My children, as the month of December now begins and the preparations for Christmas intensify, you must ask yourselves one question. Are these preparations bringing you closer to me or further away? Yes, my children, so much busyness now as all over the world and even in my church. But is it busyness in preparation for me, or is it busyness in preparation for human traditions and customs? My children, as Christmas approaches, I desire you to think carefully about the parable of Martha and Mary so as to ensure that you do not behave like Martha. My children, do not let yourselves get overwhelmed by the commercial side of Christmas, but rather be prepared to stand out from the crowd and to have a more simple and prayerful Christmas. Well, in a way, what could be a more simple message from Jesus? But perhaps the last part is the challenging part. Be prepared to stand out from the crowd and to have a more simple and prayerful Christmas. And sometimes you see, Christmas time is a little bit like being at school and the clothes you wear or something and the peer pressure. People expect you to behave in a certain way. So people expect you to have certain foods, people expect certain gifts, people expect, if you like, an awful lot of this kind of commercial stuff. And as a result, there's a terrible pressure at times put on people to behave in a certain way, to have a house maybe full of lights and to have all this type of stuff, to have the best dinner in the world, to have this, to have that, to have the other, to have guests, to visit this one, to visit that one, to get presents for this one, presents for that one. In other words, it's like being at the gym and someone pushing the treadmill up to the maximum, which I think is 20. People are run off their feet. And so Jesus is saying, hold on a second, pull back. He said, look at all this preparation. Ask yourself one simple question. Are these preparations bringing you closer to me or further away? In other words, a sort of a simple exercise in discernment of spirits. Is this really helping me? Is this God's will? Or is this just me conforming to human traditions, human customs, being run off my feet, and after Christmas probably feeling empty, being broke, and feeling that I didn't really celebrate Christmas prayerfully with Jesus, and that not only has my spiritual life not improved, but a bit like my belly and my calories, it has disimproved. So we don't want to be in that position. And that's why Jesus says, I want you to look at the parable of Martha and Mary so that you do not behave like Mary. And what does he mean by that? Well, simply that Martha was busy, busy, busy doing all the things, and yet Mary had chosen the better part. Now, some people will exaggerate and say, oh, it's all well and good saying that, but there would have been no food on the table only for Martha. Well, I never believed that. I believe that Martha could have probably prepared a very simple meal. It could have been nice. Mary could have given her a quick helping hand and they could have all had a nice chat. But I imagine that Martha was probably in the kitchen, fostering, as they say in Ireland, and trying to prepare the best things and all consumed. Oh, I've no oil. Oh, I've no this sauce. Oh, I'm going to have to go to the shops. You know, those type of people. Whereas Jesus would have said, it doesn't matter. Just give me whatever. Let's sit down and talk. And so can be the same with Christmas. Do we really need a turkey dinner like with a Michelin star or all these puddings and all the rest? Or would it not be better to have a nice, simple dinner with loving friends and prayerful? And so Jesus says that he wants the simple thing. But in order to do that, we have to stand out from the crowd. And I'll give you a couple of examples of that because I know in my own life, I've often had to stand out from the crowd in this respect. In the early years of my conversion, for example, I was blessed because I got to spend Christmas with a lot of religious communities. I was at Christmas, I think, once with a religious community in France. Maybe I was twice with them. I was Christmas with in India with the Mother Teresa Sisters of Charity and St. John Brothers. I spent Christmas at least 2 or 3 times in Australia, but it was always with prayerful people. And even when I came back to Ireland, I had a choice once of spending Christmas with my family, and I decided not to because my family, even though they're nice people, they're not people that are majorly into prayer, and I knew that it would drive me bananas, and I would drive them bananas too. And so I decided to spend Christmas at a friend's house, somebody who had invited me, and even though the way it was painful, because part of me obviously would have liked to have been with my family, but at the same time I knew from a spiritual point of view, from a prayer point of view, that it was what God was asking me to do. And that's what Jesus is saying. Sometimes we have to be prepared to stand aside from the crowd and to do something or to behave in a way that some people won't like, because they won't like the fact that we're different. They won't like the fact that maybe we're more simple. And let's face it, that some people will just not like the fact that we're more prayerful. And yet Jesus is saying, so what? It's not about pleasing people. It's about pleasing Jesus. And so he's saying already now in the shops, everywhere, busyness, busyness, busyness. But how much of this busyness is about Jesus? How much of this busyness is about getting your spiritual soul in order? How much of this busyness is people saying, have you been to confession? Have you got inner healing for the wounds you have? Have you done this? No, it's not about that. It's like, have you got the turkey? Have you got a goose? Have you got this? Did you go here? And so Jesus is saying, let us pull back from all that realm and let us focus on him and focus on bringing Christmas and allowing Jesus a big place in our hearts this Christmas. Jesus isn't looking for a big place at the Christmas table with lots of dinner and turkey and stuffing and pudding, but Jesus is looking for a big place in our hearts where he will be loved, and for us to have time with him, time in prayer with him, and also to bring other people to him, and let us use Christmas as a time to bring Jesus to other people and for the poor, for those needy people, rather than spending Christmas perhaps all the time with people who basically have an awful lot and don't know the meaning of Christmas at all. And so it is challenging, of course, because it can cause division. And yet, as Jesus says many times in the gospel, I have not come to bring peace, I have come to bring sword, division, and it'll be mother against son and son against father and father against daughter and all this type of thing. And so Christmas is a time for Jesus. And so let us put Jesus first. Let us put Jesus before our stomachs. Let us put Jesus before our families. Let us put Jesus before our turkey dinners. Let us put Jesus before our Christmas parties. Let us put Jesus in the central place. And if people think that we're crazy crackers, Jesus freaks, well then, praise God, we must be doing something right if they're talking about us like that. So let us see that as a compliment. And if someone calls you a Jesus freak, let's say, well, thank you very much. I'm glad you recognized it. So there you go. So on that note, let us prepare for Christmas with joy and not give us, say in Ireland, not give a tuppenny button about whatever and whoever thinks what about us. Because when we go before Jesus on Judgment Day and meet him, he will not be asking us about what the neighbours thought or what the family thought. It'll all be about what he taught, and we'll be so utterly delighted, especially for all the times that we put him first, despite the mockery and the ridicule and the challenges that we faced. So on that note, have a prayerful, peaceful preparation for Christmas, and don't be afraid to be a bit ruthless when it comes to or even a lot ruthless when it comes to putting Jesus first. God bless you.